apologize for that. Thank you. Okay, we are having some connectivity problems, so in a couple of minutes we will be starting. Thank you for your patience.
¿Estamos listos? Perfecto. Muchísimas gracias.
And we're ready. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, and good afternoon in Leon. Greetings to everyone on site and everyone accompanying us from the virtual platform of the ITM. Welcome you all to the cybersecurity panel. 10 years of cybersecurity, current challenges and opportunities, a view from the international standards. I introduce myself. My name is Lilia de Diego. I'm an advisor from the Global Project Quality Infrastructure from the Agency of Mexico, GIZ, as well as my colleague Josefina. And well, we've been also intensively working in cybersecurity beside the electromobility. You won't let me lie, this is such an important and relevant subject for all companies of any size. And a lot of the cybersecurity will depend on how we move towards the digital transformation and, of course, digital transformation of the economy as a whole. So we have organized for you this panel so that we can talk about the different challenges that we are facing as a country, as a company, regarding cybersecurity, to see towards where we moving and to be really aware of the international standards. So we've organized like different topics that we will cover throughout the panel. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce my panelists. I'm so happy to be accompanied by Elvin Hernandez. Elvin Hernandez is Chief of Financial Security for Latin America of DHL, specialist in information security and risk manager with more than 15 years of experience in which he has performed different positions in the private sector. IT engineer specializing in IT management and has different the training, certifications, CICM, among others. Thank you very much, Elvin, for your participation. No, thank you for the invitation. Pablo Corona is Corporate Director of the Management Systems and Standardization and Certifications from NICE, and ICE Conveyor from the Working Group of ISO, elaborating the norms of 271 internationally, Vice President for Government in the Mexican Council for Cybersecurity and Cyber Information, and a Vice President from cybersecurity in MX 2016-2020. It has the administration degrees and computing management. Thank you very much, Pablo. Welcome for your participation. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Roberto Beltran. Roberto is a network consultant and cybersecurity for a segment of Mexico and Central America, as well as advisor of cybersecurity for the digital industry process automation in Siemens. He's been collaborating for more than 5 years, offering more than 90 training workshops for the industrial sector, consultant in several projects for market-based water and waterproof beverage, electric, market, oil and gas, ITS, automation, among others, both national and internationally. Roberto is a telecommunication engineering specialized in industrial networks, Hiking Mexico, and industrial cybersecurity. So, welcome, Roberto. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your invitation, and it's a pleasure. Well, let's begin with this topic because there's so much to say. Our first topic is challenges, but also advances of cybersecurity in the industry in Mexico. For this, I would like to invite Elvin Hernandez. Elvin, from your perspective, which are the biggest challenges that the industry is currently facing? Thank you, Lilia. Well, I still believe that one of the main challenges that the industries and companies are facing nowadays is to change the concept, the mindset, or the approach that we have about cybersecurity and the relevance that it has for the development of the industry and the country itself. Unfortunately, cybersecurity or information security, to speak generally, well, comes up when you have a problem, a breaching, or the company, the country is impacted by one of these threats. The question is why? Why does this happen? And I would like to change the mindset, because if through a pie chart we can show how we conceive cybersecurity, I would like to show like three big groups. The first group is those industries and companies that perceive the cybersecurity just as an area of IT. So it's just merely technical issues. But talking about information and data security, it goes beyond talking about firewalls, technology, antivirus, malware, etc., any type of technologies that allows to reduce threats and risks. A very famous cryptographist, Wishnader, said that to talk about the problems of security of data, it does not only apply a technical issue, but it's a macro approach. So part is to change our mindset, just to take away the information and the cybersecurity subject from the technical aspects. In the second group, we have those who see this as an opportunity of business, a media to maintain and get countries, something that it's not bad at all. Of course, at the end of the day, we as the industry live and, we live from our clients. However, you won't let me lie, the approach that we have, it's just to comply with the data security only when we ask, or when it's mandatory, when we're going to have an external audit, or when we have certain reviews or checks on behalf of the customers. And once they go, we continue our regular life, and we just wait till the next audit. The third group we have those who see cybersecurity as a strategic business component and wants these to be aligned with the business strategy, so that the data security really fits and goes along with the business alignments. In one work, a colleague of mine told me, the company does not sell security, or if they were to sell security, I do agree in complying with everything that you are requesting. And yes, I answer yes. The company does not sell security, but security is a key component of the service that you are offering to your client. At the end of the day, the data security is part of the DNA of the whole product. So this is one of the challenges that you have. We need to change the approach and the importance of this. And another challenge, I think, is to start investing in the technological change in the education. Threats evolve hand in hand with technology. So it's necessary for the industry to really bet in investing in the technological development so that we can go along and be at the same piece of the different threats. Of course, we need the risk analysis to have the proper business information so that they can make the proper decisions on what and where to invest. So these are like the main risks that I would consider. Undoubtedly, it's really important, and I think that we do not really need this approach. I mean, how are we perceiving and the security in our company? Of course, there are some risks coming from the outside, from the externally, but there are also internal risks that we need to be aware of. And in this regard, some advances that you've detected or that you've seen in Mexico? Well, advances. I will talk about advances at the macro level. I think that the advances haven't been enough. At a national level, there's this national cybersecurity strategy, and if we read the document, well, they have good proposals. They have good initiatives. For example, it reads, to have a protocol for the exchange of information. It talks about of publishing the cybersecurity threats and breaches through official and unauthorized medias, among many other things. They talk about having a law, an act for cybersecurity. However, and unfortunately, it has just stayed in paper. In fact, the last April 20, the Senate sent through a communication to executive to get to know the advances that have taken place or not, because we haven't seen anything yet. On the other side, there's no legislation for cybersecurity or information security. In the criminal and federal code, there are some crimes identified and linked to cybersecurity or information security, but cybercrime or cybercriminal figure doesn't exist. What I've read is that in this year, in the Senate, it's proposing to issue a cybersecurity law. The lack of policies, the lack of regulations that promote to penalize crimes based on cybersecurity leaves unprotected everyone, citizens, companies, everyone whose threats or who has received a breach on security. So I see. I think Mexico it's only focusing on buying technology that allows them to reduce risk without any type of a culture or real understanding and awareness of what it really implies. We hope that in the future we can be more, can have a better idea on what it means. Thank you very much, Elvin. And well, Pablo, maybe you, from your perspective, talking about standards. How would you see all these advances and challenges that companies are facing? I really liked how Elvin talked about it because some days ago I was talking about something that I would like to stress upon. When we talk about cybersecurity and information security, 10 years ago, the cybersecurity topic was seen as a subgroup or part of the security of information. And something that has been clear in the last 10 years is that cybersecurity is not only protecting bits and bytes or protecting information. Nowadays, out of all these TI systems, everything depends on them. The supply, procurement, energy, health of people, everything is some things as simple as having this event due to the pandemic. We are running this virtually, but if not, we might all be together in an auditorium on site, face by face. But we are not protecting bits and bytes. We are protecting the social tissue because of the highly dependent technology that we've become. It's embedded in our daily life, and we use it every time. So impact of standards becomes relevant because it might seem that standards inhibit or limited innovation and the technological development. And for me, it's completely the opposite way. The challenge is to understand that standards leverage the technological development and consolidate it. They consolidate the scope that we have in respect of the application and use. The benefits that technology offers, such as the TI and communication technology, as enablers of our business, so as to be more competitive, reach more clients, and at the same time, we have to be aware of the risk of corruption or threats or still something altering the mechanism of communication, and we have like negative effects. But it's not to protect bits and bytes, it's to protect the whole social tissue and procurement and supply chains. So we've been trying to take this culture of culture management every time broader and broader, so they permeate in every single layer of your organizations. It's not an activity that you run once in a year as a planning. No, it's something that has to be carried out daily, in our daily basis. And this is what we have seen in the last 10 years, to see the particularities of a business and to focus on that. Thank you so much. It's really interesting to see that we're not protecting bits and bytes. You're really stressed on this matter, and I think that this is the first big conclusion of the discussion, that we need to go beyond protecting this and that. And for this, we have several companies that come to us because they are aware of and they are really concerned about their supply chains. And in this regard, Pablo, I wanted to talk about the role of the standards, but now it's really clear. And another question is, how are they now? How is Mexico applying, or how are we doing in applying these standards? And Mexico, as Elvin mentioned, Mexico is consumes technology, does not produce technology, and it's similar when talking about standards. Generally speaking, Mexico has consumed or used international standards and hasn't produced its own standards. But honestly, we have good successful cases, and I would like to point out two of them. Mexico is one of the countries with the average of MIPIM, small and medium businesses that are well developed. In other countries, they practically do not exist, and they are absorbed by medium or large companies. This is one of the possibilities that we have to create and develop talent in this small layer. We created one of the successful models, internationally speaking, in software development that became an international standard, a norm that it's called NoProfSoft, and now it's from the family. It's for the family 29. 110, and it's for the families that or everyone developing software. Something regarding data protection. We were one of the first countries and economies that created the new generations of laws for personal and protection of data. And now it's run by the PGR, but the law was issued in 2010, and we were the first country in having an officially recognized standard when talking about the data protection and recognized by the authority. Now the INA uses it, and internationally, well, we now have cybersecurity standards aligned to the privacy and procurement of data taken from Mexico. In this world, we share data everywhere in social media with service providers, entertainment providers, etc. And these schemes have been well created in Mexico, and were taken as a benchmark for other laws in other countries. So I think we can develop standards, we can develop technology when we focus all our efforts in areas where we have biggest capabilities of development and competitiveness. Pablo, it's known that we have the possibility, the potential, of course, to produce standards and have successful cases. So, what do you think about cybersecurity? Do you think that we are in a position where we can, well, create or generate a standard, or would it be better to use and adapt international standards? And this question is for all panelists. I think that today we need a combination. I don't think that we need to start from scratch, because we have an international reference framework in cybersecurity that will be really useful. But we also need to adjust and create our own standards, but mostly our own metrics and indicators. As a reference, the ITU, it's a telecommunication international unit that we all know, every year creates a cybersecurity index, and Mexico participates in that measurement of cybersecurity. However, the way they report the metrics by the ITO, are not consistent. We have no mechanisms inside the country to measure in a standardized fashion every aspect regarding cybersecurity, the typification of crimes, the possibilities of collaboration to prosecute those crimes. And within the private industry and the government, there's no standardized in generating or creating data to predict, detect, limit incidents. Also in education and raising the awareness of every people using technology, we are limited. So what I want to say is that we do need to create our own standards, but mostly standards that will consider the international context, because there's a huge there's a lot of information can be used as a benchmark, but we need to create metrics that will help us to be more efficient in when comparing ourselves, because sometimes we measure ourselves and next year we change the metrics and next year we change metrics, so we have no consistency. We need to be consistent with our own metrics and with the international metrics. And this is something pending. The second one is the creation of standards to be able to measure the maturity of risk management, and I mentioned how prepared are we in cybersecurity matters to prevent incidents, to avoid them, but also to answer to them, because what are our capabilities for these event recoveries or crisis recovery, and to restore everything after an incident? This must be part of the standards and the technology that we need. Thank you very much, Pablo, for these first thoughts. And I would like to invite the rest of the panels. Maybe Elvin and Roberto, would you like to, well, add something to all the remarks? Because of the kind of organizations that you have, for sure might have different perspectives. Evan, you unmute yourself, and then we will receive Roberto. I completely agree with Pablo. I think the large amount of companies nowadays are using international standards that are created according to different economies, environments, and legislations. And somehow nowadays we've adapted them and have worked for us. But there are like the ISO 27001, PIPA, and others are the ones that we considered so as to have a security framework within the organizations. But I'm absolutely in favor, and I think that it would be really positive if Mexico could create or come up with standards that can adjust to the context of our industries. They can adapt and adjust to the political, social, and economic context of the country. And I extremely agree that we do need metrics that allow us to measure how are we doing, and the type of incidents that we have, the threats, if we've worked on them, if they've been denounced, registered or not, what's the follow-up, etc. Because we have a huge black box there, and everything goes hand in hand with the collaboration with local and national authorities, and it's also closely related to our legislation. We do need a legislation where these standards can based upon, and we can review and monitor it for compliance. Thank you very much. That's my point of view. Thank you. We're finding just a clear path on this topic and the steps to follow. Roberto, could you please talk about these?
As technology vendors, we believe and we have seen that many industries, electrical, chemical, aerospace, they are all really following these international frameworks. NIST, ANSI, we have seen that they are asking for this type of technology. And the idea would be to have something local for the companies in this field. They are all similar, of course, and many things are equal. Metrics will help a lot to see the maturity not only on how the technical part is going, but also every stakeholder can actually help. In total agreement to have something local, and you summarize it very well with all the participations of these metrics, the metrics that we need so much. And as we have you here in the digital presidium, I would like to ask you, Roberto, which should be the role of cybersecurity in this strategy, in the digital transformation strategy of the companies, taking into account what we have talked about, what should be the role of cybersecurity? Let's first go into what's digital transformation for the companies. How important it is? Is it important? what's the digital transformation of companies? Well, it's an organizational change that is been addressed or actually originated by the IT novelties. So, what do we have to do? It has to do with interaction with other entities, and it also with many other things that in order to meet the goals of the organization. As we all know, the pandemic has forced us to get into these tools not only for our daily work but also for our daily lives. We have used digital platforms to talk to friends, to participate in concerts and stuff by using streaming. So, back to what the companies need. They need maybe to do an acceleration of the rhythm in order to get on board. And it is actually thanks to these technologies that the companies were able to continue in operations. When a company becomes more digital, there are more access points, there are more networks, and people become more connected, so the risk increases. With this context, here is where cybersecurity turns into something very important. The reality is that this innovating project needs to have all the members of the company aware of it. Not only the technical people. I have seen in companies where I have worked, they have a last generation firewall, but they need to be connected. So that is where we need to have a comprehensive planning from beginning to end. Yes, the use of these technologies is critical to guarantee the operation of a company. The protection of this information is also critical. So, how can we summarize digital transformation? Well, it summarizes in gaining speed, efficiency, and assuming the risks that it has. If we are all interconnected, there will be risks. So, with this context, I can tell you that cybersecurity is a basic pillar for digital transformation in companies. Yes, totally. So, we could clearly say that we cannot have digital transformation without cybersecurity. Well, this actually is a polemic point with different points of view. I've seen it in many, many people in the industry. There is so much that we have to work in changing the mindset. There are people that say we are already isolated of Intel network. Everything is interconnected, but of course the risks are overcome, and we know that it is not. It is a reality that there have been cyber attacks that have been really important in the news. Let's try to go back to the context. Number one, our country is one of the most compromised countries. We are at level 6 in cyber attacks, and industrial machines are, I think we're level C. So it is estimated that 56% of Mexican companies are already undergoing this digital transformation process. 23% of them have already started, and the rest are evaluating what are the possibilities available. For the case of large companies, that's the statistics say that they are going to be attacked if they are not, if they don't have protection, and if you have already been attacked, you are going to be attacked again. There are some data of a survey by the World uh, Forum that includes several officers in Mexico, and it says that 41% of them said that the company was going to have a transformation in January. Talking about that transformation. I would like to talk about some of this information. I'm going to read them. 58% of corporate leaders acknowledge that they don't feel totally ready to face a cyber attack. 82% of the CEOs believe that for 2021, these risks of cybercrime has increased, and that's the truth. So we have to continue working. We cannot stop here. We need to really keep on preaching. We need to raise awareness to all of our users. 30% of the officers consider cybersecurity in 3 years as one of the main risks in the business. All of these risks were already present for so many years. For example, in some of the infrastructures of the companies, for some of them is now a reality. As Pablo mentioned, the proliferation of incidents of cybersecurity and the demand by some clients of having more privacy has driven the governments to adopt new measures, new regulations. For example, in Mexico, the law for the protection of data, and there are other laws that have been passed in Europe. All these because of digital transformation. In summary, yes, it is possible to have a digital transformation without cybersecurity. However, we should not allow this to be the trend. We really need to work all together. We need to accept that it is a reality, that cybersecurity is something that is here with us. And as it has been said by Elvin, it's not only for technical people, it also needs to be for quality people, because quality people are the ones that are going to help us to go into the creation of these standards. And also, our legal departments need to be ready on how to manage a crime, and our IT departments need to see how to work with spam. We just need a comprehensive strategy for this topic. Thank you. Excellent point. And yes, very polemic. Digital transformation without cybersecurity. We are running out of time, and we still have some questions on the table. So I would like to know if Elvin or Pablo would like to add on what Roberto has already said. Can we have digital transformation without cybersecurity? Is that something possible? Well, of course we can. I mean, let me put it the other way around. What we were saying a few minutes ago, well said by Roberto, digital transformation is something that we do. Unless we are a company that are totally dedicated to technology, that we are not, we don't do it for that. We do it in order to gain competitivity, velocity, geographical competitiveness, and more clients. We do not implement technology just to have new toys, but to gain something. And that we gain is actually a benefit that we receive as a company. If we do digital transformation without cybersecurity, the only thing that we are going to have is that we're going to have short term benefits, but we are creating a time bomb. This is going to happen. All the benefits that we received in the short term is going to explode, and the problems, the damages are going to be much more important than the benefits that I received before. Everything that I had at the beginning is not going to be enough to pay fines, claims, lose customers, etc. So what we need is to really have risk management in a very balanced manner, so that the effort dedicated to these management items of possible risks in a cyber attack, of a threat of this type, or an error that could also happen because of cybersecurity or failures, it's proportional to the benefit that we received, so that the digital transformation goes hand by hand with the creation of a cybersecurity plan to maximize the advantages of the use of new technologies, but reducing the minimum possible the risks that we are taking. Yes, this is the concentration that we need for the future. Very quickly, maybe 1 minute for each one of you to answer my following question. How do you see the future? What are the trends for cybersecurity? What can we expect for the future? Who would like to begin? Elvin, that did not participate in the previous round? It's quite a good question, and I believe that what we will see in cybersecurity in the future goes along with what's being seen in the development of technology. There are many, many organizations that are not only betting on the hosting of their solutions in a data center as we know it. Many, many organizations are already visualizing hosting cloud services, and to a certain extent they are looking at how they can participate in different business niches. So I do believe that cybersecurity with respect to cloud computing is going to increase. In this case, the creation of new solutions to help the companies to face all the threats in this type of fields are going to be increasing. And simultaneously, attacks are going to be more aggressive and more intelligent. Ransomware and all these are not going to be stopped, and they are going to try to be more effective, and they're going to find a way to go around all the security measures that we implement. So, together with what we have already mentioned, I do believe that the digital landscape is very, very similar to what we see in a real world. It's actually just a reflection of the real world. There are deposits in a real world, data management in a real world, and this is just a reflection of what we have. And likewise, we want to regulate it, we want to establish controls with which we can safeguard all this. And it's exactly the same thing, the same way in which we have to act in real life and in the digital field. I think that the business, the industry, what it needs to do is to first define a strategy on how they look at each other in the future. Where am I going? What do I need to do in order to get there? And how can I be sure that I am doing it correctly? As Pablo said it, risk analysis is very, very important to establish our needs in cybersecurity. Thank you, Elvin. Roberto, would you like to add something to this on about the future? I think the digital world is here to stay. We saw, for example, the fall of social network, and it was 265 million people who were impacted by it. So if we translate all these into the industry, just imagine what that could be. It's actually a lot of risks. So all these forces us to find new ways to have new services and to have a good cost benefit. Thank you, Roberto. Yes, a couple of days we had that, and we have to be very careful. Pablo, I don't know if you would like to contribute with one last thought. Yes, actually, I want to repeat what I have said with respect to standards. The use of standards does not guarantee, should not be a limitation, and I like to compare it with the use of security. Sometimes there is this false dichotomy that says I need to have more security, but that means that I have to give up my privacy. So I need to have more security, so I have to give up the dearness of my project. I don't think that's valid, because usually when we create a system that is not easy to be used because of security, the user is going to find a way to go around it, and it's going to be unsafe. Likewise with privacy. So, privacy, security, dearness, and the benefit that it has for the organization and for the user should be taken into account altogether. And that's why standards are important, because we are using the learnings of other organizations that have implemented standards like ISO 271, ISO 29110, or any other ISO. There are many, many standards, but we are actually using the learning of others that have made mistakes before we have, and by doing that, we may avoid those. I mean, we're going to make more mistakes, but at least we can avoid the ones that have already been made by others. That's also a perfect insight to close our presentation. And you won't let me lie, we could keep on talking about this topic for another hour. But we have like 10 minutes left so that we can open the floor with our audience in Leon and in our digital platform. So I would like to ask anyone to share questions, and just please say who you would like to have it answered. So the floor is all yours. I can help you, Lilia, here. Who would like to ask a question? Please raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. First of all, congratulations to the panel members. It was very clear all you had to say within a very short period of time. We got it. My question is then, my question is, what's the role of the cloud and blockchain in cybersecurity? Any member of the panel may answer the question. Thank you. Pablo? It's the role of a technological tool, because what's the cloud and what's the blockchain? It's a technological tool that can help you do your work. What I would like to say is that not all tools solve all the problems. The problem is when you have a hammer in your hand, everything that you look at looks like a nail. So sometimes you say, we want to use the cloud and we want to implement it all over, or we have blockchain and we have to put it all over the organization. I do believe that both technologies are very good, but considerations per technology. The cloud, it's very good because we can concentrate in our business and we don't need to have infrastructure. It's on a third party. However, it is our role to do the configuration, to do maintenance, to do an appropriate use of the credentials, that certain permits, authority, roles, configurations, who can go in and who can go out. It's actually not the role of the cloud manager, but of the organization. And sometimes we believe that if we have a cloud service, they have all the responsibility. And the same thing happens with blockchain. Blockchain is quite a good tool, but I do not think that it should be used everywhere. We need to analyze what type of information we are going to upload. One of the characteristics of blockchain is that it is unmutable. That means that we cannot erase information. So we are going to upload personal information. We have to question that because we know that we cannot erase them. So it needs to be analyzed if we need actually the blockchain or what type of blockchain, because they are open, closed, with permits, without permits, decentralized for a given organization, public ones. So we need to do an analysis, just as the risk analysis of the characteristics of transactions, of the type of people, of the type of information that is going to be uploaded, to define if it's convenient or not to use blockchain. And of course, also cybersecurity needs to be taken into account so that we decide how we're going to protect everything in the cloud or in the blockchain. Thank you, Pablo. I don't know if we have another question with our live audience. Great. Good afternoon. The question is for anyone in the panel. What's the relationship between cybersecurity and the Pandora Papers? Is that also the thing that the information on the cloud it's actually vulnerable, and what can we do in order to avoid these type of happenings? Well, Pandora Papers, I think it has a political hue more than anything else, but it has to do with cybersecurity. Where did the information come? Of course, there has to be a way in which the data was obtained. I believe that everything can be vulnerable. At the end of the day, when someone is clear on obtaining something, it's going to find a way to break the security and to break the controls established to protect a given asset. And the cloud is not exempt from that. So this is just what Pablo has said. If we are going to use this type of technologies, we first need to know what are we going to use it for, what type of information is going to be uploaded there, what type of information and how these services are going to be managed. Do we have sensitive information on the cloud? Then what are we going to use as protection? And we're not only talking about technical controls within a specific role in order to detect and block that type of attacks. We also need to be able to monitor and obtain information timely so that we can make the necessary steps to reduce this possibility of attacks and to know what to do about. And we also need to have a plan to recover from the disaster and crisis management. Information security, it's made up of many areas that can actually help the business to reduce the possibility of a security incident if done appropriately. That's what I can contribute with. Thank you, Elvin, and I think that we have time for one last question. Maybe we do have one more question with our live audience. We have one question from the platform, and I'll share it. And it says, how can SMEs implement and have access to the benefit of international standards on cybersecurity? Excellent question. Who would like to answer it? As I said before, it's a comprehensive strategy, the one that needs to be implemented in the company. So that you can be connected with it, you need to follow certain steps. There are white papers already. NIST already have white papers, and in 5 pages explains how you can have cybersecurity, how you can implement it. Part of the premises is that you can also have a vulnerability assessment, and based upon that, you make the decisions, because you first need to know what you need to protect, and then you decide how you are going to protect it. So once you have the information, then you can apply these standards. In Senam, also there are some tools that are maybe too expensive, but it is also important to appoint staff to manage it. Not only your technical team, you need someone to help you to meet these standards. Very quickly, I would like to add on, for any type of organization, it is possible. We have certified two people companies, actually of one people. But we have had it with a a two-person organization. And to answer the question, how can the SMEs do it? Is by understanding that this is going to be done based upon the goals of the business and for the benefit of the business, and to maximize the benefits that the use of the technology offers. If we understand these three things, we will be able to generate the plan that goes in accordance with our company. But if we want to copy and paste what our neighbor is doing, of course, it's going to be just bureaucratic and just filling out papers without any purpose. Thank you very much, and I believe that with this close our panel perfectly on time. We made it, great record. I just want to say thank you to Elvin, Roberto, and Pablo for your contributions. I think that we have to keep on thinking about what was said about cybersecurity. And I also want to say thank you to our live audience in Leon for your participation, and of course our audience on the platform, and continue with the rest of our program. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lilia. Thank you, Roberto, Elvin, and thank you, Pablo. We are totally sure that it was a very